Welcome to the ripple effect of love for dads and families. Today, we're looking at balancing patience with leadership. Don't we all need, or couldn't we all improve on that aspect? Balancing patience and leadership. I'm Christine Bernard, stress management coach, and much more. And I'm excited to be here today to share some more information on this delicate balance of, being patient, setting clear boundaries so that you can lead your family towards success. And I want to start with a quote from, or some information from Dr. Dan Siegel's research that shows that when dads stay patient and model emotional control, kids learn how to regulate their own emotions. Isn't that interesting? This happens through co regulation. Your calm energy helps their brain settle down. The more you do this, the stronger their self control becomes. So, how's your child, or how are your children acting right now? It will be, for some of us, a hard mirror to look at. For some of us, it'll be like, okay, check this part of the ripple effect of love for dads and families is easy for me. And that's okay. You know, I was talking a bit about change yesterday. So before I go to this, I want to talk about, um, you know, when we are going through a transformation, what does that look like? I have a text here that's been modified a little bit to fit the ripple effect of love for dads, but it says, okay, you're in a powerful in between phases, this tender space before something new is born. And that can be challenging. It can look chaotic. So it may feel fabulous right now. It might feel uncertain, emotional, or simply exhausting, right? But this is often how it feels when your whole inner wisdom, your whole soul, yourself is preparing for something meaningful. Right now, the energy of this shift is working in you and on you, right? Even if you don't fully understand what's happening, you're being asked to let go of an identity that has served you your entire life. So, if your go to is to be overwhelmed or to be angry or to be when things don't work out your way, that's where, and you've decided, I want to leave a legacy of love. I want to my children to be emotionally more stable than I am. Well, that asks for that identity shift. So it's kind of like shedding some old skin, right? Which are those old stories, those old beliefs, those old roles and patterns that no longer help us. They're actually hindering us. So these old identities may not be released all at once. Who can vouch on that one, right? It's like the layers of the onion going through. It's a process that makes space with time for something more honest and fulfilling that aligns with your value, your true value. You don't have to see exactly what's next, but you may want to claim your space. What does that look like? This is your time to get honest about what's not working and take action on what your soul, yourself is asking for, your value system is asking for. It's time to put yourself first. Put your oxygen mask on first. This is not, and it is not being selfish, but it's a commitment to your growth, to honor your own energy, to say no when something drains you, and to honor and say yes when something lights you up, to stop pouring into what depletes you, to honor the parts of you that are ready for more. This kind of growth requires clarity, strength, and support, especially when so much is changing inside and out, right? Who can connect to that? Put a thumbs up in the chat or say, I can, because it's so important. And as you allow yourself to go through these shifts, you are showing your child how this can be a messy process. It can be for some of us, for others not. But at the end, it's all worth it. It might be important to sit down and talk about this process. I know dads were not taught to do that, and I wasn't. Even though I'm a woman, I wasn't. So everything that I teach here or talk about here is more the thing, or the suggestions that I make is about my journey as well, because it's an inner journey. It's about learning for me to put my mask on. Because if we go back to 2016, 2017, when I was collecting diagnoses, and 2018, no solutions were found still. And by 2019, it was like, I got to get myself out of this mess. What can I do? And that's where I started finding the solutions, when I started asking the right questions, instead of, why is this happening to me? And, being the victim of our situation, or just complaining about our situation. Remember I talked about the mountain yesterday? If you're here asking why and complaining about the situation, it's okay. Allow that. And open up. Allow yourself to open up to seeing other possibilities that will help you. Start asking, what solution would help me and my family right now? Take care of you first, right? That's where there's this delicate balance that will happen, where if you can, when the emotions start running high, if it's the other ones, it might be easier to start that way, and you self-regulate so that your emotions are calm, and you're using your prefrontal cortex, which is the logical brain, instead of your survival mode. Because when we're in survival mode, we've got to run, we've got to hide, or we've got to fight. So we need to be doing something. And if we can first snap, tap, and zap that onto the spiraling train, while you can see the escalation in the conversation around you, you'll be able to stay calm and not get caught in that chaos, into the argument. I've often said to students, I'm not going to argue with you because it takes two to argue, right? When somebody comes at me and they're like, that would happen, yes. But I'm not going to argue with you right now. I need a minute to calm myself. What do you need? Do you need to go put your oxygen mask on and come back? Do you need your child to take a minute, go to your room and come back, and we'll have a conversation? Some people need an hour, some people need a minute. I can almost guarantee, I don't want to say guarantee, but give it a try. See where that is. So it's super important to remember that your calmness shapes your child's brain. When you practice patience and model emotional control by doing the Snap Tap Zap, your children would learn it too. Over time, this builds their confidence, their emotional strength, and their trust in you. Who doesn't want that? Right? Maybe you don't. It's okay. You're allowed to your opinion and your. So that's when you can set those firm boundaries and say, let's say you decide that at the table there are no devices. I would suggest you start with yourself first, practicing that, putting it aside, eating without looking at your device. And once you are able to do it, then bring the family online and say, okay, I value eating together, having whatever amount of time you want, if it's 15 minutes, half an hour, where we all sit down as a family, at least, I don't know, 4 out of 7 days or weekdays or weekends, whatever works for you. Choose, put it in your schedule, because a dream or a desire without an action is just that. It's a dream, it's a desire. But when you put an action to it, then something will start happening, right? So, what is that? So, what's your biggest challenge when it comes to patience? Ooh, that's a big one. My biggest challenge is to stop. Well, was to stop and just breathe in and self regulate. Even though I'm really good at doing this and I have been doing it for so long, the last couple of months, this part of my brain didn't want to go to self regulation. There was a part of me that needed to be mad. And of course, I was doing great until last Friday when my sciatic nerve was acting up. I was in total pain. I had to drive my mom to her appointment and get her on the acupuncture bed, take her off the bed, get her, and she walks with well, it's not called a wheelchair. It has another name, but it's a kind of a wheelchair, foldable wheelchair. And she walks with this and, get her into the car, go to do some groceries, come back. Anyway, by the time I got back to the house to drop her off at her house, I was in so much pain. And when I lifted up the hatchback and knocked my head on it, that was it. My dad said, no, 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 no. I didn't hear the rest. I was off into, I'm allowed to pick up my groceries. He didn't know my groceries were in the back of the car. He'd just come outside to get my mom out of the car. So, of course, I felt really bad and did not think to self-regulate and mumbled inside of me, knew enough to mumble, got in my car, went home, ate, and I called him and I said, I'm so sorry, Dad. It wasn't oriented at you. It was my own frustration with my physical pain and had nothing to do. And now, today, my dad can say, okay, let's just forget it happened. But he had been sad until the time I called, and it had been like an hour and a half. So being able to apologize when we make mistakes is also so important, right? And it's that balance. So if we're talking about setting a new rule in the house, we need to be patient to implement it. And if you're doing, this is a thought that just popped in, if you're doing like sitting around the table for supper, let's say it's the easiest meal for you to be able to sit there. If you need a later supper, maybe a snack when the kids get from school so that they can eat maybe a smaller supper, and that's okay. Gauge your amounts. But what if once you've trained yourself not to be on the cell phone, especially if you're a working dad, that can be more challenging because maybe you are getting calls from work. How do you deal with that? Think of the solutions for that, right? Snap, tap, relax, and exhale the fear of it not working out, right? Sometimes implementing new things in a patient way, leading with love would be, this is an idea that you might want to try, is to say, okay, I want everybody's cell phone in this tub, put them on mute, and we will enjoy our supper. Or you can try just having them upside down on the table. And if you see someone take it, then it goes to the tub or on the side or beside you. And you have a conversation. What did you dislike the most today? And what did you like the most? They can start with the negative and then the positive. Make sure each individual are sitting around the table gets to talk. And if you have a big talker and one that hardly talks, because that happens, what if you have a timer and you set the time? How much time does everybody get? 1 minute, 5 minutes, and they learn. They'll learn to summarize their stories if they're a big talker. And the one that doesn't have too much to say might learn to start thinking about it. Or you can help them by asking them a few questions, right? Was there about them? And it's getting to know them. This is very, very, very important, in my opinion, as a teacher, as a parent, to leave the criticism and leave the judgment and listen to see, where can you add in after they're done talking? I'm so proud of you because today you did this. For each one of them. It can be, I'm so proud of you because you shared one thing you didn't like. So proud of you because you shared something that you enjoyed today. There might have days where they don't feel they've enjoyed anything, or maybe another question can be, what can we do today before you go to bed that would bring joy to you? It might be taking 5 minutes to read a story to your child. It might be going in the garage and fixing something together. It doesn't have to be complicated. Most kids idolize their parents and just want to be like them. So how can they be like you? Right? And if you forget one day about your phone, right, sitting at the table and you forgot to put it on mute, and you can ask everyone, what do you think my consequence ought to be? Or let the person choose. What do you think your consequence is? I have done this with students, and it is very, very interesting to see those who see they don't need any consequences and keep doing the same mistakes, and to see those children who give themselves way bigger consequences than you would have ever thought to. Then that gives you an indication on what you need to work with each child, which might be different. So there's another little bit of insight that you find out and that you get to discover about your child with who they are and what it is that they like. Or what's the trendy thing happening today that everybody's talking about in your classroom, and you let everybody a few minutes to talk about that. It brings topics you get to know in a short amount of time what's going on at school, what's going on in their lives, right? So I hope this helps you a little bit. What's that one challenge that you have that comes with being patient? And it might be being patient with yourself. Yeah, being patient with myself. It was easier for me to learn to be patient with others than it was to be patient with me. Interesting, isn't it? And for some of you, it might be the opposite. You might be able to be patient with yourself and impatient with others. That comes from how the brain was trained when it was young and how much self-love we have for ourselves. So now you understand why I'm doing the ripple effect of love for dads and families, because self-love is a big thing that I've been working on for years and still keep evolving in it. Let's evolve together. Let's move forward and become the dad your kids look up to. Book a call, if a discovery call, if you need some support. And I wish you all the best. And here's my contact information. Take care and just continue doing the best that you can so that you can move forward. Look for those mini successes that you have. Take great care of yourself, and I will see you next